Okay? And that's right here. And that's Cancer and that's Leo. And on both sides of that sun and the moon, which is the throne of God, it's the feminine, masculine energy of the universe. If you, on both sides of this is Gemini and Virgo. Guess what rules those? Mercury. Why Mercury's next to the throne, do you think? Anybody would want to know why Mercury'd be next to the throne? Good for you, because it's the messenger of God. So Mercury's on both sides of the throne. The next planet out is Venus. And it rules Taurus, and it rules Libra. So here's the throne of God, and this is Venus. This is explained a lot in my book. You know, it's all drawn out for you. But outside of that is Aries. And what's this? Scorpio. Now in the old days, Scorpio and Aries were both ruled by two planets just like these are. And that was Mars. We assign Pluto now to this, but still Mars is influential over that. And who's cast out to the outermost parts of heaven? Saturn. Satan, the devil. So what's the next sign? Look at this. Pisces and Scorpio. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one. That's right. Pisces is next, and then there's Sag. That's Jupiter. We got Jupiter ruled both those signs in the ancient days. Jupiter ruled Pisces and Jupiter ruled Sag. Jupiter was called two things in the old days by the ancients. It was called Tanens and Pluvius. Jupiter in Sagittarius was called the thunderbolt, the cinder down of lightning. Okay? It's called Pluvius. Jupiter in Pisces, the other sign it ruled, was called Pluvius, which was a cinder of rain, controller of rain. Okay? So the outermost part of the planets, then you go out to the last thing, and you've got Aquarius and Capricorn. Guess what? That's Saturn, Satan. He's cast out to the outermost parts of heaven. That's how the ancients saw it. Now, where are we going to put Chiron and all these other things? You see what I mean? Stay with what the ancients gave us. It's a beautiful astrology. And don't corrupt it with all this other stuff. That's my opinion. But let me also tell you this. As an astrologer, I don't tell my students what to do and what not to do. I don't tell you how to do your astrology. If something works for you, use it. That's the best way I can tell you. Maybe there's something that would be intuitively in tune with what you're doing that you would find it be effective. I say, good. I'm not going to judge that, but I'm telling you what works for me. And that's what works, okay? So what happens once you start studying astrology, that's why the Christian churches have been down on it so hard. They really don't like people to get into it, because what happens is they begin to see the roots of Christianity and where it all came from and what it's all about. They begin to find the things that are in my book, and they don't want you to know those things, quite frankly. I have no problem with the church. The church has done us a great service because they preserved a lot of stuff for us. We wouldn't know about John the Baptist Day and Christmas and the celebration of all these things we do. We wouldn't know about these All Saints days that they have. John the Baptist was born 6 months before Christ. Well, who was asking me when Christ was born? Christ was born, if we look at December 25th, that's Capricorn, right? The birth of the sun. It's a solar story. Every year the sun descends into, it goes north of the equator, 23 degrees and 27 minutes. It stays there for 3 days and 3 nights. Then it begins to descend again, and it goes down all the way past the equator, keeps on going south until winter's here, and we have its sun eventually reaches Capricorn, 23 degrees, 27 minutes south of the equator. It stays 3 days and 3 nights. Does that sound familiar? He descended into hell and he stayed 3 days, and then he rose again. The sun does that every year. If you do a chart exactly for midnight of December 24th, which is what we call Christmas Eve, if you do a chart exactly at that moment, you'll find Virgo rising in the east. He was born of a what? A virgin, Virgo. The sun is born of the Virgo. He's born of the ascending sign. Remember we said it's important you know your ascendant, right? The ascending sign is Virgo. At that moment, precisely at that moment every year, draw a chart anytime, 12 midnight, December 24th, you'll find Virgo rising in the east. As the sun now, having had spent 3 days in hell, is going to start journeying back north again. And when it journeys forth again, what comes back? Life to the earth. That's the solar myth of Jesus, okay? It's a solar story. Okay, now, if you go back to June 21st, 24th, June 24th, I discovered it by accident. I didn't know what it was about. I knew what the story of Jesus and the sun's journey into Capricorn. Do you remember the angels in white appeared at the tomb? That's snow at that time of year. Okay. Do you remember when he was put on the cross, they couldn't break a bone of his body? You're brought up with the faith of Christianity, you know that. Why couldn't they break a bone of his body? What rules your bones and teeth and bones in the chart? Saturn. Why couldn't they break a bone of his body? You know, because Satan had no dominion over him. You see the message? What part of the body did they break? Help me. What part of the body did they break of the people on the cross? The knees. The knees. What does Capricorn rule? The knees. Such coincidences. See why the church doesn't want you to know all this? You start to get into mysteries, you're going to find out things that they don't want you to know. All these symbols and these relationships, right? See what I mean? And then I don't, did I tell you the story about John the Baptist Day? Did I tell you about John the Baptist Day? The way I discovered about that? I was coming back with my ex-wife. We were walking. I'd taught a class that night in Highland Park, Illinois. And I was really kind of, use the word high. It's a dirty word anymore. But I was high on the spirit of it all. I was just really feeling great. And we were walking, and she was talking about tithing to Amrit Desai, who she was a follower of, a yoga master. And she's a yoga student. She goes to his ashram every year. And he fell from grace. Beautiful man, but he had an affair with one of his students. He lost his position, high position. But anyway, story of life. So what happens? I'm walking along the road here, and Linda, my ex, says to me, we should tithe to Amrit Desai. And about then I looked up, and it was a cloudy night, and the clouds all parted, and the moon shone forth, and it was a full moon. I didn't know it was a full moon that night, but as I looked up at the moon, I was like bathed in a baptism. It was the most amazing experience. I was like, just ran through me like unbelievable. And I didn't tell you the beginning of the story. That day I was laying out on the sun porch on the patio of this place we had, and I heard a voice. See, you gotta watch me, I hear voices. But I heard a voice, and it said, look at the sun. And I remember thinking to myself, what's insanity? I shouldn't look at the sun. And I started looking at the sun in all of its beauty and all of its glory. My eyes watered a lot, and I remember thinking maybe I'm damaging my eyes, but I remember doing it. And then as I did that, I didn't think any more about it till that night I looked at the moon. I still didn't connect anything at that point to this looking at the sun that day, but I looked at the moon, and it's polarized light. It doesn't cause the eyes to constrict like the sun does. It closes the eyes down real tight. And as I looked up, and she said something about tithing, and I said, I shall never tithe to any man. And I didn't say these words from my thoughts or my invention. I didn't think them up. I didn't invent them. They came through me. I said 2 times, I said, behold the Son of God in all his glory. Don't misinterpret me. I am not a messianic believer that I am somebody. But I did hear this. I said this twice. Behold the Son of God in all his glory. And then I said, I shall never tithe to any man, for I am born of the high priest Melchizedek, and I shall never tithe to any man. Now those words came out of me. I didn't think them up. I could have never thought them up. They weren't something I would have thought of. And so the next thing happens, I said to Linda, someday this shall be recorded. Let's go back to the street where this happened. I need to know what street it happened on. Now that's insane. Who cares what street names are there? I go back, and it's St. John and Laurel Street. And now I'm really, for some reason, it's significant. Now it shouldn't have been. It's Who cares what street sign it is, right? And I remember knowing that that corner was, across the street was a public library. There had been a great amount of arguments about it being built there because it was an Indian sacred burial ground. And that property along there was all considered sacred Indian territory. So anyway, I go home and I'm obsessed by this. I look up Laurel in the dictionary, the street named Laurel in St. John. It says to be crowned in victory, a symbol of the Olympics. I think, wow, that's amazing. And I'm thinking, now who's John? So I'm thinking, St. John, is that St. John the disciple? Is that John the Revelator? Is that John, who's John the Baptist? Who's this? And I'm perplexed by it, but it's on my heart all the time. I walked into my little office one day and I have an old farmer's almanac sitting on my desk and it was open to June. I looked down and it popped off the page, June 24th, St. John the Baptist Day. That happened on that day that I had that experience. Now, how could have all that come together like that? It was just, to me, amazing. So, but I was talking about the church. The church has given us those dates. If it hadn't been for Catholicism and the historical records of all these dates and their significance, why is June 24th St. John the Baptist Day? Because John the Baptist was born 6 months before Christ. And that's exactly 6 months, June 24th, before December 24th, when the birth of the Son occurs. And John the Baptist said, I must decrease, but he shall increase. And his words are describing the Son's journey as it goes down. Anyway, enough with all this. This is getting very metaphysical. I'm sharing things that are very private. But I tell you, there's so many mysteries here. And you're going to find the heavens open up with knowledge for you the more you study them. And don't let any fundamental scare you away from this. You're going to go to hell.
No, but you are observing synchronicity.
Oh,
It's very rare for people to observe it.
good for you.
Very interesting what it does.
Well, you know, some people can,
About you.
you can appreciate it. You know, because the word synchronicity is really what it's a beautiful word. Yeah, there's so much to that word. You know, so I'm going to share, we'll try to get back on target a little bit here.
Just one last thing also about astrology. Even before the Catholic Church, the 12 tribes, the 12 disciples, the 12 zodiac signs, you know,
it's all connected, isn't it? Good for you. You know, and that's, so, okay, what did I do with the, okay. Oh, there they are. Let me use these. All right. This is Bill Gates' chart. I'm going right into a chart right here. I mean, if anybody should have a chart, just tell us a message. The moon gets extra emphasis because it also rises. It's the rising sign Cancer. The moon rules it. We're talking about looking at the three things: the sign, the planet, and the houses, right? It's placed in Aries. Where's his moon? Aries. This is his I am, first house, I am. What's in that rising in the east when he's born? Uranus. What's Uranus rule?
The innovation.
Innovation, good, exactly. Electronics, everything new age. Aquarius, new age, Uranus, all that stuff. It rules computers, it rules all those things, okay? So it's rising in the east when he's born. And now, and it's in its powerful, it's in that powerful sign Leo, right? The ruler, Leo, back to that kingly sign. And now, so it is placed in Aries, action and aggression, showing what his style is, because that's what he was about. He's always been a fighter and aggressor. I mean, he's put a lot of people out of business. He's done a lot of nasty things when he was building his business. He just, in fact, anyway, so the planet's making the closest to exact aspect of the midheaven is usually determines his career. Here it's Uranus, everything new and high-tech independence. Venus, happiness, is in conjunction with Saturn. So what's Venus in conjunction with Saturn to? Hard work and discipline. Who has that in there? Who has hard work? Who has Saturn and Venus conjunct? Right? You do, dear. That tells me a lot about a person's ability to work hard and to achieve. This is hard work and discipline. That's Saturn, okay? And Venus is happiness, brings happiness. In other words, the harder you work, the more energy you put out and discipline, the happier you're going to be in life. Venus is going to promise you that. It also promises a stable relationship, okay? Even though there's things to put up with, okay? But it gives you a lot of stability, okay? So anyway, and Gates seldom takes vacations. He's got Jupiter, lucky Jupiter, and Pluto, obsession, are together in the second house. Look at the second house of money.
Oh my God.
Jupiter, what a place to have it. Great fortune. Jupiter's called the greater fortune. He's got it in the second house. And Pluto rules even the underworld. It's the plutocrat. You heard the word plutocrat? I mean, it's the powerhouses.
But Pluto can be the destroying power.
It is, yeah, it can be. But in this case, it's with Jupiter.
Yeah, you know, it's with Jupiter, so it's wonderful.
Yeah. So, and look at the power of this planets down here. Saturn, Venus together. He's got the Sun conjunct Neptune, which gives a visionary man, because the Sun conjunct Neptune. Neptune is visionary. Okay, and he's got a great capacity to work with his belief systems. But and the other thing is, this just came out this week, this month actually. Gates was moved back into first place as the richest man in the world. Did you know that? He lost that position for a while, but he's back there on number one. But look at the power of that chart. I mean, and notice how we look at it. We find the ascendant, then the 10th house, it's right at the midheaven. Remember I told you the moon rules the public? His impact on the world and the public at large has been profound. And this is all in Aries, which is the innovator. You know, aggressive, getting things done, action. He changed the world. I mean, you know, the interesting story is Apple had the opportunity, but they turned it down in a way. They didn't show up in shirts and ties, and IBM came to him and talked to him. You know, they had an appointment first with Apple, and Apple just didn't. You know, they were laid back guys. They were almost hippies. They didn't want to be talking to these guys, but they came and they ended up going over to Gates. And so he's wealthy beyond wealth now. There's so much more in this chart, but I just wanted you to look at one of them. This is Charles Manson. Like Hitler, Uranus independence madness is singleton. It's the only planet in a fire sign, and it channels all of its energy of the chart to the 12th house, psychological problems, restrictions. He spent most of his life in prison. Mars is in close conjunct aspect with Neptune. Remember I told you Neptune, Pisces, and 12th house rule what? Prisons, institutions, hospital, confinement, exactly. This can give charisma, 7 planets out of 10 on the right side of the chart. He tends to need others involved to get anything done. This is other people over here. Everything's 7th house. Look at his control over other people. Venus, Jupiter, Mercury, Jupiter, and Venus, and the Sun, all over here in the 7th house. I mean, he was a manipulator of other people, very powerful one. And Uranus sitting over here, this New Age stuff, Uranus, rising in the east. The moon in Aquarius, again, the Aquarius-Uranus energies of this hippie lifestyle that was pretty much personified in the 60s when the New Age influences started coming in. You know, the hair, remember the music, it's the dawning of the age of Aquarius. So all these things were powerful in this chart. Pluto's down here in Cancer, and if you know anything about his early childhood, it was terrible. I mean, he was basically an abandoned kid, you know, and abused a lot. But so this is, remember we want to remember the fixed, the mutable, and the what? Cardinal. Good for you. Fixed, mutable, cardinal. If you have a lot of planets in fixed, you tend to be a little more stubborn or persistent, maybe, as we said earlier, what was the other word? Good word? Tenacious, thank you. So, okay, Leo's influence, house at Leo on the cusp, shows one place where you want to express yourself and receive praise or admiration. By the way, the best way to bring up a Leo child is with praise. Leo, the sun, needs praise. Okay? Rising sign Leo needs praise. Ed needs a lot of praise. That's a part of that sign. We all need it, okay? Don't get me wrong. We all live for it. That's what love is expressed. How is love expressed? Praise and thanksgiving. Think about that. If you love somebody, don't you praise and you give thanks, right? That's how love is made manifest. What is the spirit of accusing? It's the opposite of that. Finding fault, accusing. If you're brought up with that, I was all my life brought up with that. Accusation, fault finding, constantly. I have a hard time with it, but I fight against it, because it's just not something I can't handle it anymore. I had enough of it in my lifetime. So anyway, okay, nothing but the best. Takes very hard work to be a best, and Leo is the place where we don't want to be embarrassed by failure. This means that we will work either harder there and tend towards perfectionism. Our son, Andre, is like that. I can remember him performing. He's a classical pianist, very talented classical pianist. And I remember at a school function one time, he messed up on the piano a little bit in front of everybody. And he was in the back room pounding his head against the wall. He was so upset with himself. He's so perfectionist. Whatever he does, he wants it to be perfect. And that's the way he is. Exactly, yeah.
Remember he was about 10 years old or 9 years old?
Yeah. Remember that? But, he's such a perfectionist, Anyway. Okay, let's look at Martha Stewart. Here's a woman that's had an impact. Okay. Jupiter brings luck in Gemini, which is communication and information in the 8th house. And Mercury, communication in the 9th house, which is publications and higher education. So she's got Jupiter in the 8th. She's also good with using other people's money. Anybody's got Jupiter in the 8th is going to be good at that. Because the 8th house is, remember, the other people's money. Second is your money. And she's had good people behind her, believe me, when it came to investments. Okay? And Mercury in communication in the 9th house, publication, higher education. Notice how everything points in the same direction. Leo, which is show business, is a sign of the midheaven. Leo up here on the 10th house. She's got Venus in here, which is money and possession. And what does she work with? Think about what she's about. Her profession is to beautify. Everything she does is how to beautify your house, how to beautify your food, how to make great meals. Everything about pleasing. Working in the garden. I've watched her show. She'll be out in the garden showing you how to cut her flowers and how she does it, Everything is about that. So, Leo show business is a sign in the midheaven, which is your career. And the ruler, the sun, is in what you guessed at the 9th house, which is higher education, publications. The only aspect to the midheaven are from Mars, which is energy, and Jupiter, which is luck. Mars also rules the 6th house, which is work, giving a lot of energy. And it's in the 5th house, which is fun and games, showing that she likes what she does. Note the moon is in the 2nd house of money and resourcefulness. Her appeal to the public, which is the moon, particularly to women, which is the moon, and homemakers, which is the moon, to create income, which is the 2nd house, in Sagittarius, which is sagacious and wise about money and resources. The word sagacious, wise, that's Sagittarius. That's where it came from. A sage is a wise man, right? That's Sagittarius, okay? So this is just 2 charts we looked at. Bill Gates, 2 people who very much had a major impact on life around us. But you'll get a feeling. I know that's a lot right now to read. You say, well, Ron, how would I read that chart? You start by learning your own chart. Start by looking at the significant energies and aspects in your own chart. Okay? Oh, what am I doing up there? My guy. That's my chart. Okay. So, Grand Cross. Okay, Moon opposing Venus, squaring Jupiter and Neptune. So Neptune, Pisces, look at the Pisces in here. Mars in Pisces, Jupiter in Pisces. Wisdom came out of where? Prison. Interesting enough. Jupiter in Pisces. Okay? Neptune, which rules Pisces, is on that cross opposing Jupiter. It's squaring off to my Venus and my Moon. I have a grand trine here between Jupiter, the Sun, and Pluto. And basically what I'm teaching and what I'm giving is much of that energy, those planets. Pluto is the resurrective spirit. Pluto, Edgar Cayce called Pluto. How many of you remember Edgar Cayce? When you're old enough to remember? The sleeping prophet. He used to call Pluto the planet of Christ consciousness. And that was before it was discovered. He described it, said it would be the planet of Christ consciousness. And I told you last week, remember I showed you the circle, the crescent, the cross? And I showed you how the circle of spirit doesn't even touch the soul and the body. It's resurrected above it. So it's a planet of birth and rebirth, and it's also regeneration, but it's also death. Okay? It's all those things. Okay. All right, so I didn't even know that was in there. Okay.
Now you have the Leo in Pisces?
I have what now, honey?
Leo
You mean,
is in the 12th house.
no, where do you see that now? 12th. Oh, I have the sun in Sagittarius
The sun
and,
Sagittarius.
and Mercury in Sagittarius.
So this is creativity.
Well, it's in the 12th house, and you know, it's interesting because people that have, a sun is the life. I could have spent my life in prison, quite frankly. I did 9 years. That's a long time. But I mean, I could have easily been the rest of my life in prison. If I hadn't have learned what I learned, I think I would have never got out. You know what I mean? Praise and giving thanks. I know that sounds simplistic, but I really believe that's what unlocked my prison doors.
You
Okay.
got your Pluto there. Is that Pluto in the 12th, right?
Huh?
That's Pluto in the 12th?
No. Pluto's over in the 8th house.
Oh, okay.
It's in Leo right here.
That's Mercury, right? Okay.
Yeah, and these are in grand trine, Jupiter. And then I also have a 5-pointed star in the chart. I won't go into that. So there's 5-pointed star, there's grand trine, there's a grand cross. All in that chart. Okay. I want you to really get down in your books this week. I need you to study. If you're not familiar with the symbols yet, start learning them. You should be able to look and see very quickly an aspect meaning. If you see a cross or a trine, or if you read the word trine, right above it, if you don't know the symbols or the aspects, right above that word, trine, make a trine. If you see it says something about a square, put a square there. If it says opposition, make an opposition. And those are the main things you're going to run into probably in aspects. Those are simple, aren't they? Once you learn those. But then the workbook, the textbook I gave you, my workbook, has all this in there. You can look at them and study them. But the best way to learn them, if you don't know the symbols yet, if you don't understand how to make the symbols, is just go through a chapter. If you write these planetary symbols and the signs and the aspects, every time you see the word of one of them, you will, in one chapter, your mind won't allow you, it'll start learning it because it won't want to have to keep looking it up. You know, the mind's lazy. It says, hey, come on, let's stop doing this. You're going to have to learn it. So, but we're on a path that's going to take us to an extraordinary understanding of our own lives as well as others. And when you can sit down and do a chart for a relationship, somebody you've been in a relationship, look in your past, and then eventually there's other things we can learn, but right now I want you to stay on just the chart. There's relationships, how to see two charts together, see how they work together. You remember I said I have a mutable cross, didn't I say that? I have a mutable cross, and I said I like to run away, right? Guess who my mates have always had? My marriages have always been one thing, fixed crosses. Why? Because the fixed says, when I'm saying, I'm going to get out of here, I've had enough, the fixed cross says, come on, just hang in. Fixed cross won't let you move. It's going to keep you stable. So very often we marry people who will counterbalance the qualities that we have, which stabilize us. Because if you think about it, I want to show you something. When you get into looking at two charts together, let's let this go for a while and got some room up here to write. Okay? Let's say I've got a mutable cross, and let's say it's in Gemini, Sag, and Virgo, and Pisces. Let's say that's my cross. I got 4 planets in these signs making a cross in my chart, okay? That's the chart I'm born with. Now, I marry somebody who's got, as Elena does, it wouldn't be this way. It would be like this. The Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius. Okay. Now, I shouldn't get real personal here, but I'm just to give you some idea. My past marriage of 13 years was to an Aquarian. My marriage to Elena, Taurus. And both of those relationships, I had crosses that superseded these, that put me in a position of much more security. As somebody that wants to give up and just say to hell with it and walk out, the fixed crosses are saying, hey, just hang in, everything will be okay. Just be a little more patient. That's what the fixed crosses can do. So when you see, you put two charts together and you look for compatibility, you'll see that one chart can actually be a salvation to your chart and be a factor in really making you much more happy and stable. Even though you have certain weaknesses and flaws in your own chart, that second chart, if it's superimposed on top of yours, these are called compatibility charts. We're not going to get into that in this class. You see that now? It makes sense? So now it goes both ways. It goes both ways. So my wife will say, I don't want to move, I'm happy here. I don't want to make this adjustment. I don't want to move to Florida. I mean, tell me if that, huh?
What happened when I said I want to move to Florida? What happened?
We moved.
And what I say if I don't want to move from California, then what happens?
We moved.
So, who wins?
It's not about winning. It's about necessity in life.
Trees are opening in the garage.
Huh?
My downhill skis are opening in the garage. Third year of vacation.
She's still not happy.
I'm very happy.
Hold it.
Not
Take
necessarily.
Well, you know what?
Scientists to get flexible.
Well, that's it.
Depending on where the moon is and
What is it? What is it Ruth said in the Bible? Whither thou goest, I will go. Wherever thou go, I will follow.
yes.
So I'm very blessed to have a wife that's followed me everywhere I've went. So, and there's been reasons why we moved, and every time we've moved. So once was for our son's education, because California's educational system was falling apart, and we have a genius of a boy. We wanted to make sure he got into good schools. So he moved to Boston area, and we spent 6 years and let him graduate from school. And he's went on to graduate from college and done extraordinary things. But that wouldn't have happened, I don't believe, the same way if we'd have stayed in California, because the schools were becoming gangland. There was problems in schools. There was a lot of things happening that we didn't want to be part of. So, you know, you have to acknowledge that too. So anyway, enough of this. Let's get in a little thing about it. So I want to say to you, though, this, that if you stay with astrology, you'll not only have better understanding of your own relationships, you understand why we are the same or not, or why we're different, okay, in terms of astrology. And you'll also begin to, I think, begin to work with the energies that are supposed to be negative energies and begin to see how to transcend them. One of the things I gave you tonight was a work that I put together just for you for this class. And it'll give you some understanding of why I spend so much time on teaching praise and thanksgiving. It's so instrumental in what it does for your life. It'll transform your life, I promise you. And it's not easy to do. You know, when I get down or get negative and Lena turns on me, why don't you practice a little praise and thanksgiving? I get it thrown right back at me, see. But you know, we are all human. And we're not always going to perform at the level we'd like to perform. But we know the truth. And that is a big step in acting in a way that's in accord with that truth. And what I believe is that if you understand the mechanisms of praise and thanksgiving, it's not just words. It's a loving heart that we're talking about. And it's not just a loving heart towards others, it's a loving heart towards yourself. Because you won't love others till you love yourself. It's quite simple. And it's not just about love, it's understanding why you dwell in this consciousness. There's a scripture that says, whatsoever things are pure, just, lovely, if there be any virtue, any praise, listen to those words, anything of good report, think on these things. You try that every day. You got Russia doing this and Crimea, you got all this good news to watch, and you say, I'm supposed to dwell on good? All things work together for good, it says, right? For them that love God. But there's something else happens when you dwell in good. There's something happens when you start seeing good and seeing beauty and good outside and looking out. And that is your eyes dilate. Did you know that? Did you know your eyes dilate when you look at good? Did you know that a man, when he looks at a beautiful woman, his eyes dilate? Did you know that? If he's heterosexual. I could go the other way, but the point is, the old gym buyers in China, they never could figure out why the price of a gym would go up as soon as they spotted one they liked. And those old Chinese merchants were very smart. They just watched their eyes. As soon as they saw those eyes dilate a little bit, they knew the price was going to go up on that stone. And they could never understand why. It's like the card player that's playing at the poker table. He's wearing sunglasses. Why do you think he wears them? Because when he gets a full house or a flush in his hand, what do you think his eyes do? They dilate. Do you remember I told you the day I looked at the sun in all its glory? And that night I beheld the sun in all his glory? What did I do when I looked at the sun? Didn't I cause my eyes to constrict and close down totally, as much as they can? And then I looked at a polarized light of the moon that night. What do you think happened? My eyes did the opposite. They dilated totally. And then the light of life was within me. The scripture says if an eye be single, the whole body would be full of light. You got all these people interpreting that about ways that are stupid. Excuse me. Third eye, pineal gland, all that stuff. The singleness of an eye was a totally dilated eye. Totally dilated eye. If an eye be single, the whole body would be full of light. Of course it would be. If your eyes opened up totally, they'd be full of light. You hear what I'm getting at? So when you're dwelling on good, you keep your consciousness in good. You dwell on good, you see good, you look for good, you dwell. If there's a man has 9 faults and 1 virtue, dwell on his good. Praise his good. It's the only thing that will redeem him anyway. Accusing him is not going to help. You always and you never. Those words. Those aren't going to help you. It's not going to help make that person a better person or your children a better child. It's dwelling on their good, seeing their good. Remember I told you last week about the woman that had all these bad kids that nobody else could handle? What did she do? Every night at the table when the child was supposed to be at the bottom of the stairs in the basement, they knew that the child was up there with his ear to the door. They would talk about all the good things that had happened and how much improvement they saw in that child. So we need to understand the mechanisms of this. When I talk about praise and thanksgiving, I'm talking about a physiological thing as well. And it's not about just, when we talk about forgiveness, we don't realize what forgiveness is. It's not about, holy, I'm so holy, I'm going to forgive everybody. It's about understanding the mechanism of it. Because every ill thought you hold towards somebody else is being directed towards you. Your subconscious is picking it all up. If I say, you son of a bitch, I hope you die, I'm talking to me. Because my own subconscious does not know the difference between me and you. If I say I'll wake up at 5 a.m. tomorrow feeling wide awake, alert, and refreshed, I'm going to wake up at 5 o'clock. I'll probably go back to sleep, but I'll wake up at 5 o'clock. If I say you will wake up at 5 o'clock tomorrow feeling wide awake, alert, and refreshed, guess what? My subconscious mind got the same message as you and I. It does not know the difference. So if I say, you son of a bitch, I hope you die, what have I just said to me? I've spoke to myself, my own subconscious. It's called the collective unconscious. It's Jungian talked about it. It's collective. It's powerful unison. There's something between all of us all the time going on between us on soul levels. And you can feel it. I feel it. It's where 2 or 3 gathered in my name, there I am also. Well, that's part of what it's all about. I used to do hypnosis a lot. And I remember in prison I'd hypnotize guys and have different things I'd do with them, and I remember wherever I was, that person knew I was in that 57 square acre prison. They were so connected to me on an unconscious level. I mean, I could go on and on. There's so much. Your subconscious mind. Remember the circle, the crescent, the cross. That's what we're dealing with. Let's learn the truth about those things, because that's you, the kingdom of heaven within you. It's not just about the heavens and the stars. It's about the kingdom of heaven within you. And you're a master. You have to be master. You master this. And how can you do it? You can only do it through love. Like I wrote in soap on my mirror in my prison cell. The only thing that matters is love. The only thing that is love. It's like the poem I wrote, what is life but love in full sway? Take it away and there's death and decay. If it's contorted and twisted around, it never leaves its infant home ground. But if its presence is stately and true, it edifies and beautifies without a cue. And that's the person you want to be. But start with yourself. You got to forgive all the stuff all the mistakes you made. Forgive everybody. Recognize that by forgiving them, you're forgiving yourself. We hold these bad things and thoughts towards others. We're only directing them to us. Yes.
I love what you're sharing, because I study Course in Miracles, and its basic principles are that, my little easy study group, so it's beautiful. But what I'm learning is, when I'm seeing all these charts, these strong planetary energies, and these aspects, and these afflictions, it's giving me more compassion to my fellow human being, because impatience, because I see that it's, it's not just, pick yourself up and do it, that there's, it's not as easy as that. I mean, not to enable anybody, but it's helping me become more patient.
That's beautiful.
And other people, and I see how it's been done.
Right.
As they overcome and transcend certain karma or Saturn, so it's really helpful for me.
And what is the first virtue of love? What does the scripture say?
Charity?
Patience.
Patience.
You've been speaking your love. You've been telling me how much love you've been manifesting by doing what? Patience. The scripture says in patience you possess your souls. Think about that one. Whoa. In patience you possess your souls. And there's nothing more raging than an impatient man or woman. I've watched men sitting outside of a woman's in shopping, and he's bearing a horn. His face is beat red. He's hitting that horn. He's so angry because she spent too much time in the store. He's dying. He's killing himself. He's literally dying. The scripture says the devil rages for he knows he has but a short time. People say, oh, God's within. I say, that's right. Where do you think the devil is then? He's within anybody that's in this accusing spirit, that's constantly impatient. That's the devil working in them. Father time. I haven't got enough time. I haven't got enough money. That's all Saturn's energy in the negative side. Okay? So when you talk about patience of others, it's taught me a lot too, because, I had to deal with a lot of issues in prison, you can imagine. I mean, I had to deal with homosexuality, which I abhorred. And I was very critical of it and very judgmental. But I believe in reincarnation. And we had a dear friend in her 90s, Leela Sherman, who is responsible for that picture of Christ on the wall over here. That's a long story. I don't want to go too much on that. But she went to see Edgar Cayce when he was alive and had a reading. And I used to have an astrological program called the Cayce Astrological Program. And what it did, it took your chart and it took all the readings that Cayce had ever referred to, anything from those aspects. And it gave a reading. It was basically Edgar Cayce's reading. It's still around, but it's a Kepler program, and it's not available on Macs anymore. You can only get it on a PC, which I would like to have it back again. But I did her reading with one of those Cayce things, and Leila became a dear friend of ours. She was a sculptor. She used to sculpt the Pope. Did I tell you this story about her? She was one of the most beautiful women in the world. When she was living in New York as a young woman, she had the first really big metaphysical store ever in New York. And what was her family from? What island? Long Island. Very wealthy family. And she was an amazing woman. And anyway, she had a Casey reading he told her that she was a man in her past life. And that any relationships that she had with men, if they became more than friendships, would always break up. That's a hell of a thing to tell somebody, that men came to photograph her and paint her. We saw pictures from her albums of her when she was young. Most beautiful woman you'd ever meet. But guess what happened to her? She started growing a beard. Now this is back in the 40s, 50s, whatever, I don't know when, back going a long way, when Casey was around, right? And here's a woman, you didn't have laser stuff then. You didn't go, okay, I'll get rid of this one, my mustache and she started growing a beard. And you know what that did to her. It just totally isolated her in relationships. It destroyed her beauty. And so, anyway, what's all this about? It's what you're talking about, really, is having more compassion and more understanding. I said, God forbid I come back next life and my wife's a man and I'm a man, I'll probably become a gay guy. I'm going to come after her, I'm sure, whether she changes over or not. The point is that I love her that much. I would love her no matter whether she was a guy or a gal or anything. So that's how love is, you know what I mean? It's Stop YouTube. I'm embarrassing you, Lynn. Okay, what time is it? It's almost 10. It's 1:45. Well, anyway, we don't have to publish this one on YouTube. We've said too many personal things in this. But here's what I want you to do. I want you to get serious about this, study, and work at learning the art. And it'll transform your life. It really will. It'll open up wisdom beyond anything you can imagine. But more importantly, I gave you a handout today. Read it from cover to cover if you would. It's only 2.5 pages in big print. And it's on praise and thanksgiving and why you should and what it'll do for you and how it'll change your life. And I promise you, if you start applying that to the things that are hurting you or in conflict in your life or whatever the state is. A dear friend of mine inspired this, actually. She's a client of mine. Her name's Dana. She called me sent me emails the other day and about I'm 50 years old and I thought I'd find a guy and I'm so, depressed and all this, and I was inspired to write it, and she wrote back, she said, now you know why you're in my life, Ron, because it inspired her, lifted her up, made her start thinking correctly. Because the more down you get, the more depressed you get, the more unattractive you become, the less attractive. I was at a dance one time, and there was a beautiful girl there, a young girl, and she was sitting next to me, and she was pouting, nobody's asking her to dance, and I swear to God, this is true. I just looked over and I said, look at it, hon, I'm going to give you a little secret. I said, you change your night. She says, what? And I said, yeah, I'm serious. I said, you stop pouting and sitting there pouting, and I want you to start smiling. And I said, you'll be on that dance floor all night. She said, are you kidding? I said, no, I'm serious. Just try it. She started smiling, and you know what? Next thing you know, guys are over there, one after another to dance with her. Why? Because people want to be part of that which is light and love and whole, complete. What's a smile relate? It says, I'm happy, I'm whole, I'm complete. People want to be around wholeness. They don't want to be around sickness or lack or insufficiencies. Right? Am I making any sense to you guys? I'll talk your ears off if you let me. Listen, I thank you so much for being part of this class. You've been just wonderful listeners and attentive and loving. And I want to see work this week. No excuses. Okay? If you have any questions, call. Ed was worried he was disturbing me. If I'm busy, I'll tell you. I'm very Sagittarian. Sorry, Ed, not a good time, call me. But if it is, and I've got time, I'll talk to you. If you got a problem, you want to ask me a question, feel free to do that. Just don't overdo it, but do it. Okay. I love you all. Take care.